Why has the West become increasingly irreligious? Anthony Wallace says belief in supernatural powers is doomed to die out all over the world as a result of the increasing adequacy and diffusion of scientific knowledge. But are developments of scientific knowledge driving people away from the supernatural? Numerous attempts were undertaken to understand the irreligious trajectory witnessed in the West. An exhaustive implication of sociological reasons for this are beyond this paper's scope. The main question under investigation is the extent to which new atheist scientific argumentation has impacted this trend, with one of the first sociological attempts to investigate irreligiosity in England, conducted by Susan Budd and described in Varieties of Unbelief. Budd used obituaries from secular and ethical organizations of 200 biographies between 1850 and 1960, identifying three causes for unbelief, including reading the Bible and rationalist classics, a distrust and resentment towards clergy members, and a criticism of belief in immortality. Science and Darwinism are conspicuously absent here. The periods between 1958 and 1974 were perhaps most dramatic in demographic movement towards irreligiosity in the Western world. Elaborating on the British context, Hugh MacLeod mentions individualism, socialism, scientism, feminism, religious criticism, the sexual revolution, and post-war affluence as reasons for an irreligious direction. An irreligious family socialization was indicated by MacLeod, and most sociologists studying this period as a primary reason for irreligiosity in adulthood. The criticality of this period adulter, in altering to religiosity is toughly stated by Callum Brown. It took several centuries and what historians used to call the Dark Ages to convert Britain to Christianity, but it has taken less than 40 years for the country to forsake it. Analyzing 836 students in a Canadian context, Bruce Hunsberger identifies primary socialization in the home as the most salient factor for religiosity, surveying the time period from 1987 to 2012 from an American context and using the General Social Survey, Davis and Smith, to inform their results. Michael Hout and Cloud Fitcher link increased political polarization as a salient reason for irreligiosity, stating political liberals became substantially more likely to express no religious preference. Moderates became somewhat more likely to do so, and political conservatives Hout and Fischer, Hout and Fischer make special mention of autonomy, claiming, original to this paper, we invoke a value shift toward greater autonomy and away from traditional authority. In formulating our hypothesis, we have drawn on social psychological research in the 1950s that identified the emergence of a positive bias in favor of thinking for oneself. We refer to as autonomy. Most evidence has been compiled by asking survey respondents to rank things it might be important for a child to learn, including to think for him or herself, and to obey among other potentially desirable qualities. Houghton Fisher. Furthermore, using the General Social Survey, Davis and Smith in an American context, Stephen Marino concludes the most recent cohorts raised with no religion are even more liberal percent, compared with roughly 20% who self-identify as conservative. Likewise, more recent cohorts raised with no religion are much more likely to express a lack of confidence in churches and religious organizations in a Britain context. Linda Woodhead cites individual freedom and liberal democracy as a salient factor. My argument is thus that growing pluralization and liberalization in Britain have since the 1970s been met by opposite tendencies in religion, and that it is this clash which helps to explain the increasingly rapid rise of no religion. It's not that religion or or spirituality per se have become objectionable to modern man, as some older secularization theorists and Enlightenment atheists like to think, but that the particular kinds of religion on offer in late modern Britain have not offered the social, spiritual and moral goods which younger people affirm and desire. Woodhead and Cato. Woodhead effectively refutes theories of secularization, stating the patchy global distribution of no religion undermines simplistic accounts of secularization that imagined all countries propelled to the same secular destination point by the irresistible forces of modernization. Woodhead's appreciation of census data limitations collected each decade in England is useful as it accounts for data skewing due to its collection by heads of households. Woodhead mitigates these issues by creating survey questions which scale the extent of a participant's atheism, concluding that only 13% of nuns are strongly secular, amounting to under 5% of the population, and that the growth of no religion cannot be conflated with the growth of the secularism compound or something, I don't know, by the new atheists, supports these findings, reporting that approximately 90% of Americans believe in a higher power, despite 26% claiming to have no religion. Pew Research. Accordingly, only a minority of religious nuns are confidentially atheistically. This data is noteworthy as it effectively suggests that the number of confident atheists in Britain, 5%, is similar to the number of Muslims. Okay.